Hey guys, welcome to my classroom. Today I'm going to be talking about Christian studies, specifically planning for Christian studies for your homeschool as an Orthodox Christian. As some of you Orthodox Christians know, there's not a whole lot of resources out there for us. So what I've done is gathered different resources, kind of come up with my own mishmash of things, and ran with it. So now you get to learn how to. I love this version of the New Testament because after each gospel it has the commentary of the church fathers, and at the end it has a chart that lists all the stories and where you find them in each of the gospels. This is a nice Bible for younger children. It's Orthodox and it has icon-like drawings. It's very beautiful. However, it is missing some stories that I wish it had, but what can you do? The woman who wrote this book really has a deep understanding of children and what their minds are capable of, abstract thinking, concrete thinking. It's been pretty foundational in me choosing what kind of stories to tell my children and how to tell it. As Orthodox Christians, we don't just focus on the Bible, however, we also live our lives around the calendar of the church, and so this lists all the feast days of the church, which is helpful if you forget. And then this is a great aid for teaching the children about different lives of the saints. This is a really nice, simple book that describes the order of the liturgy, and it comes with this nice little poster. This is for older kids. I would not use this with my younger kids. Now that all the boring book stuff is out of the way, let's look at the manipulatives. We have our icon corner, or wall, a little prayer we say in the morning. I modified it so it was a little bit shorter and easier to remember. Our cross. We've got the 10 Commandments. And I made a poster with the books of the Bible that I think is pretty helpful for me. I have this little spot on the wall here where I hang up different icons for different feast days to introduce to the kids. The icons came from a calendar a while ago, and I think it's pretty helpful to show on feast days. I'll put it up in that spot, and then we will talk about what they notice in the icon, what it means, and then talk about the feast day. Made a flannel board. Here I have the creation story, Noah, and St. Patrick. This is an example of what we use during the Nativity. It's basically what we use in the Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, which is a very Montessori style curriculum and way of learning. The teacher will read from the Bible, and then when they're all done, they'll read it again, and the children can move each piece according to what's going on in the story. And I made this out of popsicle sticks. It's the barn and everything. And so the kids get to do it, and they really enjoy working with the materials, as we say. They don't just play with it, they work with the materials, because a child's work is their play. They essentially act out the story. They were actually tiny ornaments, and I just took out all the little hooks on top. This is a new thing I found. It goes from Holy Week to Pentecost, and it just has little lessons and little activities that you can go over with your kids to kind of reinforce things. I haven't actually looked through it very much yet because it's pretty new, but it looks like it's probably going to be fun for the younger kids. Sometimes we do drama. I found this yarn at a thrift store, and we told the story of Jacob and Esau and wrapped this around our arms. Pascha or Easter is the most fun for teaching Bible because there's so much. Resurrection eggs are not specifically Orthodox, but they're so fun to do with the kids and they love them. I don't remember specifically what Protestant resurrection eggs look like, but the Orthodox ones that I made probably look a little different. This is a palm branch, a real one made into the shape of a cross. It did have some perfume in it for the woman who wiped Jesus' feet with her hair. This actually came off of a model lamp I used for like a bowl of water when Jesus wiped the disciples' feet. The most different thing you'll get between an Orthodox or a Protestant thing. This is communion. This is actually the rest of that lamp that I used. And I just turned it upside down and painted this part gold. And then this is actually a sand dollar, but it looks like the Prospera. It probably looks like you've normally seen, and I don't know where my egg went here. Sometimes it's just have them compare an icon to something similar. So this is the icon of the triumphal entry on Palm Sunday, and then I showed them this kind of high and lofty looking king, and I didn't tell them any answers. I think that's very important, not to give them answers, just to ask them questions. What do you think about this? Did you notice anything different? What's the same? Which one do you like better? Stuff like that, just to kind of get the feel that Christ is humble, and even though he is a king, and show them this, he's seated on a throne, even though he is the king of all, just look at the difference between the two. Pinterest is where I get the inspiration for any crafts we do. This was a St. Patrick's Day pretzel candy coated craft. This was the Gifts of the Wise Men craft. A crown craft. My word is a lamp unto my feet craft. And the Lion's Den pillow craft. Halloween craft, where I had a jack-o'-lantern with an icon next to it because the saints are like lights of Christ on the path on the way to Christ, helping us along the way. And in each jack-o'-lantern or whatever, there was some candy, and then they finally got to Christ himself, and there was like a bunch of candy in there, so they had fun with that one. Now we get to the fun part, the curriculum itself. The reason I organize my studies the way I do is because I was introduced a few years ago to Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, which is a Montessori-based Catholic Sunday school program that more and more Orthodox churches have been adapting. The main idea in Catechesis of the Good Shepherd is that we don't just go chronologically through the Bible, but we introduce Christ, the Good Shepherd, first to a small child so that they learn who he is and why they love him. And then as they get older, you supplement it with different stories from the Old Testament so that you can see, look who it's pointing to. It's pointing to Christ. I'll start by giving an example of when I first really started planning this out. This is my format. I would have the week listed, the week of school, the subject. So here I started with the Nativity of John, and then each day, like specifically which part of the Bible I would read to them. Then I'd have an activity or craft or movie or whatever, songs that might be associated with it, and then a book. Here's the deal, guys. My brain wants to get super abstract with my kids, and I know they're not ready for that. So going over the Beatitudes, like in great detail, was probably a mistake for a kindergartner. Trying to explain the Eucharist by going back to the first Passover and how it is so similar to Jesus dying on the cross. I'm not sure kindergarten is the right age to start that. Second grade. It is very similar to the other one, except I try to focus a lot more on concrete things. And then I just go into miracles of Jesus. And I list each miracle, and then I will read an Old Testament story that is similar to it. The blind man being healed, and then we'll go over the book of Tobit. That is something you will not find in a Protestant Bible. I think just going over the concrete stories instead of trying to get all abstract and like, ooh, what does it mean? Let's look at these types in the Old Testament. Even though we're kind of doing that, I'm just going to focus more on the story and see if they can figure it out themselves. And since my oldest is a little older, I want to go over the liturgy and just kind of see if they can name the different parts in the church, if they know what certain terms mean, and then if they can remember any of the order of the service. I don't want to focus too much on what all the parts of the liturgy mean, but I would just like them to know, like, oh yeah, I'm familiar with this, so when I'm actually standing in liturgy, I'm not bored out of my mind, but I'm like, oh yeah, I know what's coming. This is my basic outline. I start with the miracles of Christ, I do the Nativity of Christ around Christmas. I'm going to have a baby right around Christmas, so I'm going to be taking a break, and we won't be starting up till closer to Easter time or Pascha, and then I'll go over a little bit of the liturgy and the parable. Finally, let's not forget our Bible memory verses. These were chosen by me personally, ones that I thought were important for my kids to know. So we will probably be going over one of these a week if possible. We'll just kind of feel it out and see how well they do. I didn't focus much on the church life besides different saints and their feast days and like the 12 great feasts for my younger kids, but I think that as they start to get a little bit older, it's going to be good to start introducing things like the liturgy or why we do things the way we do and church history. I'll be saving like the serious in-depth stuff for when they're older. Thanks for watching, guys!